My childhood was good, filled with happy moments more than sad ones. My biological father died when I was just 5. I was heartbroken after his death as I was really attached to my father. Whenever I went out to play and see kids with their dad, I would feel really down and just miss him a lot. I thought that there would always just be a vacuum in my life which would never be fulfilled, but I was proven wrong and my life changed for good. The very moment my stepfather walked into our life. My mom married him after meeting him at her workplace. He was tall, handsome, African-American with a heart made of gold and good mannerisms. They fell in love and started going out. My mom, she was quite young back then. I was 7. So, you would say, when things got serious, my mom told him about me, and guys, he was absolutely ecstatic. I didn't think that he would be, but he was, to have me as his daughter, as he loved children. Well, after that, he started coming to our house more often and even playing with me. Bought me sweets, toys, and so little by little, he got close to me and I started treating him as a father. Mom and his relationship were blooming, so much even I got attached to him. Mom decided to marry him. Charlie, my now stepdad, agreed, and then they bought a house and moved in together right after that. Being really naive back then, there were dozens of things I was unaware of, and that included hate. Hating others for a variety of reasons, just like I was hated and made fun of. At first, because my father died and I had only mom and there was no one to accompany me to the nearby park. With my mom working tirelessly, and just when I found a new father, I had no idea things would get worse. The first time I realized how big of a superiority complex people can have because of skin color is when my stepfather came to pick me up from school. Everybody starts laughing and making fun of his face, and color, and called him things, comparing him with animals, and just all kinds of ridiculous stuff. I was angry. I wanted to fight back, but that's when my stepfather stepped in, and just told me to ignore them. He let me know only insecure people hate others, and everyone's beautiful in their own way. My dad, that's what I called him as the world's stepfather, never really felt right. It came to our bond. Anyways, that's how he taught me morals, empathy, compassion, and love for others. He was the one who groomed my personality and made me a good-hearted person, or, at least, a decent person. Whenever somebody raised my upbringing, I loved to see the proud smile on his face, and of course, my mom was also my hero, but he was the one who tried his best to build a bond with me and shape me into a good person, and that was the reason my mom loved him a lot. Thanks to him, I grew up loving people for their heart, not appearance. I appreciated the appeal and got infatuated with people because of their personalities, not their looks. I can surely say it was my father who made the person I am today. When I started going to middle school, kids started picking on me even more. It's something that happened to me back then. I didn't have a lot of friends and ate my school lunch mostly alone. One day, I walked into the cafeteria and a group of friends who were actually my classmates threw all my food over me and started to call my family strange, and started calling my dad, well, some pretty racist slurs. I tried to hide it from my parents, but the issue was not negligible, as it came to the principal's notice and our parents were called. My dad threatened to sue the student's family if any of them got involved with me again and tried to bully me. They were also charged fines and made to write self-reflection letters, and from this encounter, I learned to stand up for myself. Just like that incident, my parents helped me to learn a lesson from every good and bad thing that happened to me. I was a meticulous and sensitive person, and having an empathetic attitude towards life just made me fall in love with art. And that's how my journey towards being an artist first began. I would just draw random things, but from my point of view, what I thought stood out from them, and then slowly my interest developed towards abstract paintings, doing art shows and different themes. And when I started going to college, I took lessons and started taking it a bit more serious. You see, That's the real reason why I majored in arts. And that's where I met Anthony, my boyfriend. Anthony was a finance major, and we crossed paths at university. We started casually, but as time passed, our feelings got stronger and we became exclusive. Anthony and I had completely different majors, yet he always appreciated my love for art. I presumed him as an empathetic soul and thoughtful person, but I was proven wrong with time, and Anthony met my father. A few months after we got serious, and his initial reaction wasn't bad at all. He just inquired about my biological father, as he didn't know that the person he met was actually my stepfather. I'd always referred to him as Dad, so he never really knew much about it. But anyways, he did not dwell any further, and so I never really got any gist of his thoughts. Things progressed between us pretty swiftly. Anthony never took me to meet his family, and that bothered me a tiny bit, but he always gave excuses like his mother was out of town, so I didn't question it any further. My life as an artist was pretty busy, and I never really had time to meet people as well. So, Anthony's mom, Camellia, was not my concern at all. I assumed that he might not have the best relationship with her, so I just decided to ignore the matter, and that was my very first mistake. Anthony would come to my home and occasionally meet my parents whenever they would invite us. He got along with my dad pretty well too. It was like that for 3 years. When the 4th year of us being a couple started, Anthony proposed to me, and after we got engaged, throughout the years, I'd met Anthony's mom only a select few times, and she was not against our relationship at all. However, I did notice that Anthony and his mother got along really well. This made me a bit confused about why he took this long to introduce us. I simply could not figure it out. Anthony's mother did not know much about my family, and Anthony for some reason told me it was better this way. Whenever we met her, she would only talk about my mom. At some point, I felt as if she only knew that my dad was dead and had no idea I had a stepfather at all. She just probably didn't know, but Anthony shrugged it off, told me that she knew, of course, but is not mentioning him as she doesn't know much about him. So I just let it pass. And yeah, that was another mistake. Things got worse and everything got out of hand on our engagement day when she actually met my parents. But even before that, with only a few encounters, I did notice that Anthony's mom was very old-fashioned, had a bit of a superiority complex. 1 or 2 times she shared her experiences of working with people of different races, and just went on and on about how terrible it was. She also talked about the disruption in law and order caused by a certain community. I felt my mood sour a bit, assuming that she could be referring to, but Anthony changed the topic quickly, and later let me know that his father actually died in a car accident and his mother just never grew out of trauma, and I should just ignore it. I should have taken it seriously, but feeling sympathy and compassion for her, I again let it slide, and had no idea how serious her beliefs were until our engagement day. We had a small engagement ceremony, and well, only a limited number of people were invited. Anthony seemed nervous and jittery that day, but I thought of it as just excitement of getting engaged, as it was a big day for us. He had been behaving strangely for a week, but again, I did not think much of it. I was too occupied with the preparations that I had no time to evaluate the situation or his behavior at all. My parents were ecstatic when they heard the news and supported us. I saw their happy faces, chattering animatedly and with the guests as they welcomed them. And that's when I saw Anthony's mother arrive. I saw her narrowing her eyes at my father before walking past them and completely ignoring their existence. Well, I thought maybe she must not have recognized them, as she never met them, so I myself decided to introduce them. Just then, Anthony stopped me, telling me to forget it as it wasn't the most important thing according to him. Well, I found it ridiculous that our families did not even know each other, so I brushed him off and padded towards his mother. I called my parents, and the moment I introduced them to each other, His mother's eyes widened and something snapped in her as she threw away the wine glass she was holding and absolutely started screaming and yelling. Anthony intervened, trying to calm her, but she was way too aggressive. At this moment, I was stunned and could not move at all. I saw her picking up some food trays and violently throwing them at my father, calling him all sorts of racist slurs, and then glaring at her son as she yelled at him, "What is this?" Anthony tried to persuade her to come with him, but she only shook her head. My heart raced heavily when I heard her telling him to break off this engagement. I snapped my head towards them and looked at Anthony in disbelief, waiting for him to shut her up. But thankfully, my father intervened and told him to take her away. I saw him nodding as she tried to drag her away, but the woman only screamed like a maniac and even hit at him, telling him not to get involved with family like this. I heard her say all kinds of insults and my hands itched to call the police, but I just stopped myself, as she was my fiancé's mother, and I just looked at Anthony and just would make her apologize, I hoped. I was embarrassed when I saw how horrified our guests looked and apologized to them for the inconvenience. They only expressed their sorry for whatever happened. In short, it was an absolute disaster, and well, when I went home, I waited for Anthony to come home so we could discuss this. Anthony and I had bought the apartment together 2 years back and were jointly paying for its expenses. Anyways, Anthony did not come that night and left me feeling even worse. I expected him to come home the next day, but for 5 days it never happened. And so, it only added fuel to the fire and made me even more aggravated, so when he finally strolled home, an argument was expected, but what happened next was not. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So today's story involves a mother-in-law from nightmares. Yeah, if you guys are new to the channel, smash that subscribe button just to support me a little, and I appreciate it so much. Guys, there's just so many updates to get into. Let's hop into update number 1 and see what OP does in this situation. I went to my art studio even though I was struggling really badly after whatever happened. I was busy working on a project when I heard somebody entering the room. So I stopped painting to look at the intruder, and shock was painted all over my face, seeing none other than Anthony. I stood up with my blood a-boiling, seeing him standing there so calmly as if he did not ghost me for days. I was so angry, my loud voice was expected when I questioned him about what he wanted now. And he only sighed as if I was sucking out his energy. He ignored my statement as he told me that his mother's not doing well and I should go pay her a visit. Well, to say I was stupefied would be an absolute understatement, as I didn't know if what I heard was even right. I was terrified by his stupid words, and I just narrowed my eyes, asking if he was in his senses. He just shrugged, which only aggravated me even more. He started talking about how stressed his mother was and how it wasn't a big deal as she had been through a lot, and seeing a black man just, well, it made her mad as the man who caused his father's accident was black. I was furious hearing that. His mother was acting as if no white person ever caused an accident, and she wasn't even going to apologize to my father for assaulting him. I could not even believe my fiancé was saying that, as I never expected him to spout nonsensical things out of his mouth before. I told him I was not going to do any of that, and I saw how Anthony got angry hearing it. He yanked me by my arm as he shook me violently, telling me to come to my senses. I was frightened, as he wasn't the man I've known for 4 years. I could not recognize him. I tried to break free and push away from his grip, which caused him to lose balance as he tripped away, and he tripped over a spray can I had laying out, and well, he hit his head on the table. I was shaking, watching blood drip from his wound. I watched him stand up as he yelled at me and muttered how he was done with me. And that's when he broke things off with me, throwing the engagement ring on the ground before storming away. I could not believe that our 4-year relationship just ends like that. So I waited a few days for things to calm down before calling him again. What I was not expecting was a woman to answer the phone. So I asked the woman about her relationship with him, and she told me that they just started dating 2 days ago, and I could not be more shocked by anything in my entire existence. I could not believe it at all. I was shocked, appalled, and absolutely in disbelief. I was heartbroken and just felt betrayed by the man I envisioned a future together with forever. A few days later, I got to know that it was his mother who told him to break things off with me, and then arranged to date, well, a girl that she picked, and he just agreed without any sort of resistance at all. It was very hard for me to digest it and process the whole information, but eventually I had to accept that Anthony himself only pretended to be fine with my dad, but himself disliked people of dark color, and they both have had that white supremacy disease. Even though I myself was a white person, never had that. I knew how common racism is in our community, though, so it didn't really surprise me. Update number 2. Hey guys, after my relationship with Anthony ended, I was an absolute mess. I felt heartbroken, and because of that, I felt myself slipping into depression. I stopped working, stopped going out. Anthony sent his lawyer to notify him that he wants to sell the house and get his share. It only added to my misery, and well, not only that, but I went through a horrible breakup, and now I had to sell my house too? Man. My father got to know about the house situation and paid me a visit. He sat with me as I cried and talked about my mental struggles with him. He was the one who gave me a shoulder to cry on and tried to motivate me. He helped me move back with him until I found a new place and took care of all the paperwork related to the house. I felt blessed to have him as my father. When I moved back with my parents, they helped me to get back on track and, well, deal with the issues. My father was my counselor. He helped me get over it and let bygones be bygones. Thanks to him, I started to be able to start working again. Well, he told me to deal with the situation positively, and just think of it as dodging a bullet. I thought about it, and then an idea popped into my mind, and that was working on an art series with the theme of racism, inspired by abstract expressionism. I tried to reimagine the pigment in the photograph to signify my dad's culture and racial identity. Like paying homage to the lives that have been lost in the present-day struggle for equality. And also wanted to renegotiate black identity and just place it in history. And all my paintings depicted that. It took me months to complete the project, and I mean months. But I drew men with pain painted all over their faces, mouth zipped up in butterflies trapped in cocoons, to show the slavery and oppression. I was satisfied when, after months, I saw the final result. As soon as I completed it, I showed it to my parents, and the proud look at my dad had on his face when he saw what was made with my efforts were worth it. He helped me to display those paintings at a famous exhibition in a nearby gallery. The owner was my father's friend, but he warned me of the hate I could recite as a result of it, but I told him I was ready to face it. The initial response was mixed, as people pointed out that the artist wasn't even black herself. Though most people applauded me for not being biased and shedding light on the issue. There were people who doubted me, and some even hated me, tarnishing my own community's image. I took all the criticism quietly and continued displaying my work at different art galleries. And this work changed my life for good and made me succeed I could never even think of achieving. Update number 3. At first, I started to get praised by the gallery managers for my series. Then I started getting messages from people telling me how much they loved my art. It all felt surreal. And then I was surprised when a local media outlet contacted me to post it in their magazine. I could not be happier and agreed, and this resulted in more people getting to know my work. I was contacted by the media outlet again, and people are requesting to know more about my work and my life also. I was apprehensive at first, but then because of my parents' encouragement, I agreed. I was interviewed and asked about my art journey, and I just stayed honest and answered about my early life, and then getting into college. But a particular question was asked about my inspiration. Well, what was it that made me do the series? And I proudly stated it was my father and his struggles. That interview got published and I gained a lot of fans. I had no idea I would be admired by people like that, and more people came to see my paintings at the gallery. But one day I woke up having hundreds of notifications on my phone. When I checked them, I was shocked to know that someone someone who knows me and was at my engagement posted a clip about my ex-fiancé's mother, attacking my father, and even wrote about our relationship ending because of it. I could not straighten up deny it, as there was video proof, but I decided to say it was not what it looked like. Because of that, I was contacted by the media. But of course, people saw through me and continued to criticize Camellia. Even if I wanted to, I could not control the hatred that she was getting. Her video of cursing and throwing racist slurs was getting more and more attention, especially because it was related to me. I decided to stay quiet and waited for everybody to forget things, but they did not. Her insults were offensive, and people wanted her to apologize because of her blatant racism. Just in a few days, people tracked down who she was, whose my fiancé was. Those who knew how she had been cruel before them started sharing their experiences. People started to expose her problematic behavior, and even started to criticize Anthony for not manning up and breaking things rather than condemning his own mother's behavior. Everyone pointed out his lack of respect and understanding towards his partner and supported his mom's troublesome behavior. This whole situation became a top story, and it just attracted more fans and well-wishers for me, just as more and more hatred was thrown at them. And they were even scrutinized by the public. I knew the only way to calm people was for the culprits to admit and apologize, and that happened, but along with something very unexpected. Update number 4. This is the final post by OP. Hey guys, I was at work with my assistant and, my assistant announced that a man was here to meet me. I thought it was another admirer of the paintings and happily agreed. But the moment my eyes fell on the man, I was surprised. It was Anthony, stood right there before me. As he looked down at the floor, I waited for him to speak up. He starts apologizing for hurting me and also for his mother's behavior, and told me to give an interview saying it was not his fault as she should be let off the hook. I could not help but feel happy for them to face a little bit of karma. I told him clearly that he should issue an apology, rather than expecting me to sympathize with him as I had no time for it. I could see that the man trying his best did not snap. He tried to persuade me, but I rejected it. He lost his temper and yelled at me, which I resulted in people present in my studio filming him and throwing him out, and just like that, the clip went viral. People started bashing him even more, leaving 1-star reviews at the place he works. The pressure was too much for the employer, and getting known of his problematic behavior and racist attitude along with his mother, he was kicked out of his work. He lost his job, and even people in his neighborhood were disgusted by his family's actions. Everyone was hating on them, and their non-existence apology only angered them even more. I got to learn that eventually they decided to move away. Anthony and his mom left the city and just moved to some other place to be able to live a decent life. I soon saw an apology from them and decided to put things in the past. We were living a life opposite to each other, and his mother was making trouble for him even more. It wasn't my headache, so I was glad things turned out this way. Though it was a painful experience, it taught me a lot of things, and I was able to do this much in my artistic career and achieve great success. I decided to paint more purposefully and highlight different issues prevailed in society. I soon was able to afford a big apartment and an art studio, and my career was finally flourishing. I focused more on my mental health and was able to focus on myself even more. I even was able to meet somebody from the same circle and date him. It was all thanks to my parents and my father who helped me through the thick and thin, and life taught a good lesson to my ex-fiancé and his Karen mother.